I was diagnosed in January 2010 with diffuse B-cell lymphoma. And that in of itself is not that rare. It's actually, if you're going to get a lymphoma, that's a pretty good percentage of what you may get. How it presented in me is extraordinarily rare. And because of it, it wasn't like, hi Sam, you have cancer, a really nasty, aggressive cancer, ornery like you are. It's not like that. It was more along the lines of, hello Sam, you've got cancer, you are dying right now. And we've got to figure out a way to keep you alive right now so then we can determine what kind of cancer you have and then start fighting it. And in the meantime, please stay alive to the best of your ability. It was more like that. I nearly died twice within the space of a week and a half, but I didn't. I'm very ornery too. And the people at Methodist saved my life twice. When they finally discovered it, and I'm not embellishing or exaggerating in any way, this is legitimately what my doctor said. He said, you have a single mass. And I said, okay. And he said, it's between your lungs and it's curled up over your heart. I said, okay. And he said, it's 7 inches by 5 inches. And I said, and this is the kind of moronic architect that I am. I said, what's the depth? And he just kind of looked at me like I'd lost my mind. At any rate, so my heart was compromised, went tachycardic. They had to drain my pericardial sac with me lucid for it. That was interesting. To have a line run in your chest underneath your sternum. And then, and the whole time you get to watch it. It's actually really kind of cool, believe it or not. I was actually talking with my cardiologist, who's a dear friend now, while he was saving my life. And like, is everything okay? Are you doing all right here? Then my lungs were compromised as well. They were both filled up with fluid. They couldn't even really figure out how I made it to the hospital. They couldn't figure out why I was upright or walking. So then they drained my lungs, 2 liters worth of fluid. While I was lucid, which was pretty interesting. They kind of tapped me like a keg out of my head, and it discharged. And both techs were absolutely dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. There was silence, just like this. About like that, for a good 20 seconds while I was just running fluid. And the one tech turned to the other tech and said, get another container. And the other tech looked at her and said, what do you mean? She said, get another container. So I'll not forget this ever, they took away one tube, or flask essentially, and put the other one underneath. And then I filled that one up too, another liter. So it was pretty amazing. Then from that point on, I took R-CHOP 8 full rounds throughout the spring and summer of 2010. I got the maximum human dose you can get of andriamycin, also known as doxorubicin, which is extraordinarily nasty stuff. But I made it. It looks kind of like Pepto-Bismol. I don't recommend it. My cancer did not die after the R-CHOP, so they hit me with 40 gray worth of radiation to my chest. That's translated, that's 4,000 rads. It's on the high end for a lymphoma, what you do. And then immediately after that, I was declared in remission. And this is when I went through all of that, and I had not contacted a CanCare person. At that point I did, and I wished to God above that I had contacted a CanCare coach, as I call them, before all that, while I was going through all that. I stayed in remission for about 9 months, and then it presented itself again. And I knew immediately at that point, because I've been reading so much. I thought I read a whole lot for graduate school. No. Or undergrad. No. Yeah, when you find out that your life is being threatened, you cannot research enough. I read more about lymphomas and leukemias. It's insane. So once it kicked back on and came after me again, we realized we already knew what was going to happen, which was a stem cell transplant. And so I geared up for that. This is this past year. And all the while I was talking with Gary, who was my CanCare coach, and he was terrific. And I'll spare you a lot of the grisly details from that, because there's details that are pretty bad. But I made it, I hacked it, made it through. But it's kind of an interesting thing, and I don't think anybody would ever say this at a CanCare meeting, but I'm going to say it. And this is just my point of view. I might be the only person in the room who feels this way, but for morale, I've only heard the word hope in here once. That's kind of frustrating. I've spoken here like 2 or 3 times before I got up here. The idea of morale is profound. It's a very, very big thing. I think there is a substantial connection between what science can do and then what your belief, what your mentality is for yourself and not giving up is. I think there's a tangible connection. I think there has to be. And if you have the worst CanCare coach ever, I mean, a pathetic, terrible CanCare coach, it doesn't even matter, because if they are there, then just symbolically, they, as a person, being quiet, listening to you, it is representative of somebody who has what you've had, and they are not dead. They are drawing breath. They're doing okay, and they're taking the fight back to cancer on other people's behalf. That in of itself is huge. It's just absolutely huge. I can't stress it enough. So if you, no matter how bad you feel, and in my case, being 33 years old, knowing the percentages, I love numbers. I'm an architect. I need numbers. I use them all the time. It's pervasive. Instead of paying too much attention to statistics, listening to the idea of hope and trying to put those statistics away, it's a huge deal. And it's a huge deal for others too. And so that's why I think what people do in this room is far more brave than if you have it yourself and you're trying to stay alive. That's just how I look at it. I don't necessarily consider anything that I've done brave, really, at all. Not one iota. It's not. I run half marathons and stuff with Team in Training, try to raise money too. And I had somebody ask me, say, that's, you have someone who's fighting cancer has to be brave. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, and I just thought of this. I wasn't trying to be profound or anything. I said, to me, I kind of look at it like you're in a room with no doors and somebody's trying to shoot you and you're trying to jump around and not get shot. I was like, I don't know how brave that is. That's more like instinct or self-preservation. I don't know that it's brave. But when you listen to somebody else and you empathize with somebody else who's in pain, that's brave. Guys, this is the first time I've ever been, I was about to say photographed, on video, so forgive me if I'm a little bit nervous. Goodness. Right, I'm supposed to speak to you guys, but only as a client, so I've got a little bit of a curveball there. I have no idea what's behind me right now. Oh, okay. Didn't want you to. That was a good day. That was actually really, really recent, and it was a complete surprise given to me. I had friends from all over the entire country that behind my back, and my wife lied to me for about 3.5 months to have everything coordinate. So anyway, I showed up in my church auditorium, and I had friends from California, Washington, D.C., all over the place, and they were all there. I was completely dumbfounded. At any rate, I